So, good morning, everyone. So, I am your reporter today, Mr. Hein Taito C. Tornado. So, I'll be tackling about the chapter 15, part 3. But before we start our discussions, let us all pray. Our dear, kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning presence, dear Lord. Thank you for the gift of light and extending our life up to this very moment, dear Father. As we start their Father, in our discussions, may you please give us knowledge so that we could understand, and may you please apply it to ourselves on what we've heard today, dear Father. Thank you for hearing and answering all our prayers. Please forgive all our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. So good morning, everyone, once again. So today I'll be tackling the book of Light Bearers to the Remnant, chapter 15, part 3 of our discussion. So in this chapter, I'll be tackling about uh, the Oakwood College, Madison College, and the expansion in the South. So in Oakwood College, so there is a building plan, just an entitlement. But in this topic, they the leading officers of the General Conference decided to develop an industrial school for blacks that would draw in the best students from primary schools like those Edwin White was inaugurating. So a few months after the Morning Star first arrived in the Vicksburg, so this would happen. They planned to build a school for blacks. So after that, after they planned, they searched. They began to search for the land in the area of Nashville, Tennessee, or northern Alabama. So the locating committee, composed of General Conference President O.A. Olsen and its treasurer, Harmon Lindsay, and George Irwin, the superintendent of the Southern District, paused in their search at Chattanooga. So to its proceeding to Huntsville in Alabama, they learned that an old 360-acre plantation for sale. So through this favorable contact, the committee secured the estate for only $6,700. So less than the original asking price. So to that, um, they they have their prayer session before um, negotiating about the money, and also the negotiating for the estate. So after that, the mother of the agent handling the property that they have a patient at the Battle Creek Sanitarium. So that's the reason why the mother sell the estate for only that amount. So after the search, the land. So the the people who search are impressed with the large number of huge oak trees on the estate. So Olsen and Irwin decided to name the new school, which is Oakwood. So in the early months of 1896, they spent in clearing brush from the rundown land and in attempt to get the dilapidated manor house, barn, and the 9 old slave cabins in usable shape. So after that, they established the school, and a visit by Irwin and the others to Booker T. Washington, Tuskegee Institute helped confirm the founder's view that Oakwood should place heavy emphasis on vocational training. So In the year 1896, they tend to open the school at fall. So from the start, Olsen and others had decided that Oakwood would run a year around. So rather than a 9-month school program. Only in this way could the school make proper use of the farmland and give the practical instruction in agriculture, which he felt was vital to them. So in the month of November, this has the declaration that the school is is, is officially opened. So Mr. Jacob's son and daughter held evening classes for their eager students. So the 16 boarders who were present at opening, they increased to 23 in the 2 months time. So they've been added by the 2 months of the opening of the school. So yet there is another 15 attended as the day students. So by the start of the 1898, there were facilities to accommodate 50 boarding students at the Oakwood. So this is the past and present picture of the school, which is the Oakwood College, named after the Oakwood University of the Seventh-day Adventists, which has founded in 1896. So after that, these young people studied half of each day and worked the other half to pay and for the tuition. So in addition to that, the agriculture for the boys at the Oakwood learned masonry and carpentry. Meanwhile, the girls received instructions in cooking, sewing, laundering, and even gardening. So over the next 2 decades, a wide variety of buildings were added to the campus, which most of the buildings being done by the students themselves. So other students helped to construct the building itself or the college itself just to pay their tuition, or like they been working for um, to compensate, in other words. So after that, there are many facilities could not be enlarged rapidly enough to meet its demand to the school. So when the century closed, 55 students jumped the dormitories, while half that many were turned away for the lack of the room. So others were disappointed because there are lacking of facilities, and also there the school did not meet their ex, expend what do you call it, their expectation. So because of the first students had so little opportunity for education, so instruction at Oakwood during the initial decade was given at the secondary level in the 1917 century, which the school was elevated to junior college status. So we're done tackling about the Oakwood College. So let's go to the Madison College. So the Madison College was less than a decade after the founding of Oakwood College for the blacks. So another school for whites was established as a result of Ellen White's continued calls for Seventh-day Adventists there to devote to more attention to the neglected southern states. So Ellen White itself um, encouraged to encourage the conference to have another school for the whites. So as a result of that, um, also Ellen White's eager to have the opportunity to recall or call upon the Seventh-day Adventist peoples or students to devote themselves after they have been neglected. So in the Madison College, Edward A. Sutherland and Percy T. Magan who in the 1901 had led in the relocating of the Battle Creek College at Barren Springs, Michigan. So both men were educational reformers and firm believers in guiding messages, continuing issuing from Ellen's White's pen. So they are the messenger of Ellen White. So they are determined also to resign their posts in Barren Springs and establish in the school in the South, where students could be trained to serve as self-supporting missionaries. So they will eager to have to work in that school just to just to support themselves in as a missionary teacher. So they would prepare their students to combine evangelism with better farming methods. So in learning, uh, they they tend to emphasize that when you are in school, not just for learning, but they tend to exercise also the evangelism, so that others would compensate also. So they also teach about the correct health principle. Thus, they called minister to all needs and all deprived hill people at the South. So Sutherland and Maga intended to locate their school in the mountains of eastern Tennessee or in the western section of Carolinas, but as Mrs. White urging, they agreed to explore the area of Nashville. After unsuccessful weeks of hunting for a site, the two men accepted an invitation from Edson White to cruise up with the Cumberland River on the Morning Star. With, with his mother and some others, about 10 miles of north in a Morning Star broke down. So in this scenario, the Morning Star, which is broke down, that their hearts may dismay. That would be as school developers that they pointed to run down buildings that eroded the land and the asking price for the farm, which they were sure was too much high. So it is too much for them to um, too much for them uh, for the price of the land which they have been hunting. So as they began walking over a random farm, Ellen suddenly became excited. So the place resembled an area she had seen in vision. So she urged Sutherland and Megan to buy the property, even though the price is too high. But there, so while ago I tackled about the dismay of their hearts that would be that the property would be a school developers that the price which is too high. So Mrs. White was unperturbed, whom they were expecting to help. So the answer was the poor farmers in the hill region. So Mrs. Mrs. White um, Mrs. White answers the poor farmers in the hill regions will be the one which will be helping to provide money to have that property. So it is it is Mrs. White replied, would it be well for your demonstration farm to be good quality land so much different from the people of your purpose to help? So as far as fans were concerned, they should trust the Lord to meet their needs. She would call upon the people to help them. She urged Mrs. Nell Drilliard, Sutherland's aunt, and a woman who had shown pronounced financial abilities through the years to join these boys in their new enterprise, which is um, the Edward Sutherland and the Percy Magan. So still, Sutherland and Magan hesitated, but they finally decided Ellen's White urging was clear test of their belief in their divine inspirations. Sensing a chance to make more money from these Yankees, the farm owners suddenly raised their price by the thousand of dollars. So Mrs. White interpreted this development as a way out of situation they had been. About the first, she insisted they still should buy the place, and buy it they did by the time they obtained the possession. On October 1904, the founders had incorporated the new enterprise as the Nashville Agricultural and Normal Institute. Its proximity to Madison, Tennessee, soon led it to be known as the Madison School, which Ellen White further demonstrated her support by accepting a position on the Institute of Board of Directors, which is the only time she served in such capacity. There were only 11 students on hand when the first term of the Madison School began in the fall of 1904. Idealistic young people had followed Magan and Sutherland, Mrs. Drilliard, and Mrs. Uh, Bessie DeGraw down from the Barren Spring. So the schools was operated as a big family with students and teachers joining together in the morning and evening worship throughout the day. All are participated in the work necessary to make the farm pay. So it is it is not unusual for the dean, so the appointed dean, which is the Percy Magan, to drive the mule team for plowing, while one of the lady teachers set off to town in the cart to make. So it is the only simplest furnishing were provided at Madison. Plank tables and dry goods, black box dressers were the rule. Food was largely restricted to what could be produced on the farm. So the philosophy of the founders was that more closely conditions in the school approximately in the conditions of the students they would face when they went out to teach. So the more easily would they adjust on their vocation. So there were many unconventional features in the educational system integrated at Madison. So students at our labor rather than in cash was was accepted for their tuition. So this meant that cash is necessary for operating expenses must come for the sale of the school products or from patrons. So the governing body at Madison was not the faculty or a president council, but the school family sitting in session called the union body. So union body working together in this group, students and teachers jointly made rules to enforce discipline, plan for needed improvements, and directed as the various departments of the school. So it only matters requiring in cash expenditures and then referred to the board of directors. One night each week has set aside for a meeting for the union body. So each student at Madison studied only one major subject per 9-week term. So they receive or he received the 3 hours of class instruction per day and was allowed an equal time for preparation. So part of the students studied in the morning and the rest in the afternoon. So the average student needed to put in 6 hours of labor daily in one school industries to meet their school expenses. So working side by side with teachers in the garden and the dairy or in the field or poultry house brought a close spirit of fellowship. So they all knew these departments were vital to produce cash for the institution needs. Frequent changes in work assignments allowed to acquire proficiency in varieties of areas. So the Madison School made no provision for organized athletics for the clubs, classes, or in the other groups, which might encourage rivalry and competition. So students were expected to be adult enough to find recreation in intellectual and spiritual pursuits. So the vast majority students coming from Madison expected to be the teachers or health workers in the rural communities. They studied Bible, history, science, or grammar during the regular 9-week term. So short 3-week session devoted to practical skills like carpentry, cobbling, or blacksmithing were offered between regular terms. And first year, Mrs. Drillard offered a 1-year course in practical nursing and hydrotherapy. So later on, when a sanitarium was added to the school in 1907, this course was lengthened to 2 years in all subjects, and the emphasis was on teaching the student to be proficient enough to teach the same subject matter when he went out on his own. So this is the picture of the Madison College, which is brought to the new name, which is the, I think, Madison University. So for the last topic, which is the expansion in the South. So it was a year and a half after Madison was opened, the first members of the school family left to start out school. So 15 miles from Madison, three members of the original group purchased 250 acres of land and developed the Oak Grove Garden School. So they came as settlers, but at the community request, were soon operating a three-teacher school for 75 to 80 children. So with that, by the 1915, they were 39 of these self-supporting groups spread across Tennessee, Alabama, and North Carolina. More than three-quarters of them had already begun free primary schools back at Madison. Uh, Magan, Percy Magan, already 44 years of age, and Sutherland, 46, decided to take the medical course to strengthen the School of Sanitarium complex that they were operating. So, commuting to Nashville by motorcycle, they studied at the University of Tennessee and received their medical degrees in 1914. So, uh, although the following year, Dr. Magan left to become the Dean of the College of Medical Evangelists, now the Loma Linda University Medical School, and Dr. Sutherland directed the Madison complex for another 30 years. So even before the medicine school was begun, Ellen White had in 1903 urged the founding of the similar school for blacks in the Nashville area. So during the next few years, she repeated this recommendation several times in studying this O.R. Staines. Oakwood's business manager became impressed that he should resign at the and start such as a school. So after consulting with Dr. Magan and Dr. Sutherland and securing Mrs. White approval, he began to search for a suitable another location. So at last, a rundown but promising farm was located 6 miles from the center of Nashville. Staines and his mother used their available cash for a down payment, and Staines immediately left for Michigan to canvass friends and relatives for help in paying the balance and in securing livestock and equipment to begin the new institution. So, which has the name school after the name of Hillcrest School, which is Michigan Adventist gave cows, horses, buggies, and assortments of farm machinery, enough to fill the railroad car for a nearly year. Staines traveled through Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan, raising funds to complete for paying the land. So in the late 1908, when the first three students from Mississippi arrived in the Hillcrest School, wait, but the classes did not actually begin until January 1909. By the fourth year, there were 20 students, all determined to go out as a teachers of their own. So sadly, the Hillcrest School did not survive long enough to do extended work that if this the founders envisioned. During its few years of operation, however, it is helped prepared by several dozen young old people for effective service under the most difficult of their circumstances. So one example will illustrate this fact. The mission school started for black children at Ellisville, Mississippi, was about to close when Watt Bryant, a Hillcrest student, decided to keep it going. So moving his family to a nearby 40-acre farm, he fought drought that burned up most of his corn and sorghum. Yet he stayed on and provided a home for a mission-minded black teacher, Lily May Woodward. So So today's scenario, without a conference support, Lily May had charged her students 10 cents per week for their tuition. So this gave her enough to pay the Bryants $1.25 a week for a board and room, and it's $150 to support an orphan brother and sister in Atlanta. So today's today's discussion, they tackled about the proposing a school which they attend to have a school. Also, they also give their experiences on what they are been struggling on preparing and building a school to itself. So here are the suggested reading by starting the Ellen G. White's Southern work in 1996. And also, they also um, suggested that the student can get a feel for a steering messages that propelled by Edson White into opening of the first extended SDA work for Afro-Americans. Edson's work is well told into Gabriel's mission to work in America. So this is also a book. So this all for today, and thank you for listening, and goodbye.